spring with 2 film programs running at the same time, the Pickwick Theater Classic Film Series and the Park Ridge Public Library Classic Film Series. Now, though the theater screening of Gone with the Wind has been pushed back to the fall, there is one more movie-related project I'm doing that I would definitely recommend you checking out. I will have a display on the making of Gone with the Wind upstairs in the second floor display case, and that's going to run through the month of June. So I would definitely encourage you to check that out. Hopefully, it'll get you even more excited to see the film when we do finally show it in the fall. Now, as for our library series, Rediscovered, I hope you've discovered many new films and stars. That was the intent of the program. Everyone knows Humphrey Bogart and Marilyn Monroe, but how many out there are familiar with Anne Hardy or Warner Baxter, who we saw last week in Prisoner of Shark Island? I know a lot of these films have made an impression on you, especially on opening night when we screened West of Zanzibar, and we had pianist David Drazen perform a wonderful accompaniment. We've had many memorable evenings together this spring, and tonight will be no exception. Now, before we start, I'd like to introduce a frequent collaborator to the Library Film Series who has helped me several times with these programs. Most recently, when I was out of town in Cincinnati for the Tyrone Power Centennial, and she was here to talk about Key with William Powell. Now, I'm not sure how many young girls in their 20s are capable of coming in here in a moment's notice and discussing William Powell. But that's what makes her so special in this day and age. She's always behind the scenes, offering advice, writing about films and stars, and helping me track down these wonderful guests. Please give a warm welcome to Annette Bohannon.
Irene Dunn once said, "I drifted into acting and drifted out. Acting is not everything. Living is." Irene Dunn was one of the most down-to-earth of all classic Hollywood film stars. Like so many other greats, she was actually from the Midwest, hailing from Louisville, Kentucky, but growing up mostly in Madison, Indiana. A devout Roman Catholic, she was the daughter of a riverboat man father and a concert piano teacher mother. While her father influenced her sense of humor and self-identity, her mother acted as Dunn's mentor for the creative arts down the road. After years of voice lessons, Dunn auditioned for the Met, but did not actually land a role with the Metropolitan Opera. But thankfully for us, the rejection from the Met prompted an opening of doors in theatrical venues. So she landed several great theatrical roles, which eventually opened the door for movies, and here we are today celebrating her. Dunn proved to be an enormously gifted actress with a capacity for drama, keen comic timing, and a flair for musicals. Despite her many talents, she is arguably one of the most versatile actresses to never win an Oscar. However, she did not live for her acting ambitions alone. Rather, she found far more meaning in life from human relationships, faith, and essentially the unscripted. She was a soul who was forever anchored to home and family and ceased her acting career to become a wife and mother. She married a dentist, Dr. Francis Griffin, and the couple adopted a daughter named Mary Frances. Dunn remained married to Griffin, her husband, until his death. In the remaining years of her life, she dedicated much of her time to the Roman Catholic Church and Republican causes. Dunn lived for God and others, not for celebrity, she emphasized. Though a wonderful actress, her legacy is truly grounded in the Christian values and meaningful relationships that she lived and cultivated in her life. Today, we continue to remember Irene Dunn as a lovely, unassuming soul in perfect control of her many, many talents. However, we're especially lucky to have someone here today who knew Dunn on a far more personal level. It is my great pleasure to introduce to you Anne-Marie Strebick, granddaughter of Irene Dunn. Thank you.
Matthew, for all you've done, to propagate, the art of these old films, and they are timeless. So you will probably be, I'm repeating what was just said in many ways, but I'll just give you a little bit of highlights, of her story. And then afterwards, we can have a couple of questions. But I do want to start off that today, with social media, it's really exciting for me to connect with people who are on the Irene Dunn Society page, because it's an opportunity for people around the world to just go onto the page and click on pictures, and it's amazing what people come up with. The pictures and quotes and articles. YouTube is a fabulous source. And I got a message today from a woman who said, please let me introduce myself to you. I didn't know who your grandmother was, and I was flipping the channels, and I ended up on TCM. And my husband had passed away. We were married for 45 years, and he passed away 3 years ago. And I was just flipping the channel, and it was the first time I had laughed since he had passed away. That is probably what I think, the epitome of star power. And when you think about the 1930s and the era of the Depression, it was bringing joy and hope and laughter into people's lives. So for today's youth, and for Matthew to be hosting, these movies to bring back timelessness and innocence and really funny stuff. So she was so great. So I just have a little something I can read to you. So Jimmy Stewart said of her, "She is a woman of patrician beauty poised with regal grace." And that is the grandmother, that is the woman that I knew. She was my best friend. It couldn't have been more true to say than my Mimi. And I called her Mimi because when I was tiny little thing, she said, who am I? Me. And I said, Mimi. So that's what I called my grandmother.